Thanks very much for joining us, mate.
Nah, thank you for having me, man. I'm happy to be here.
First off, I'd like to start off how you got into wrestling, or like how you started training, stuff like that.
Well, I first saw wrestling, I was about 11 years old, and it was the triangle ladder match at WrestleMania 16. You had Edge and Christian, the Hardys, and the Dudleys. And, you know, watching that match, I was just, I think I was hooked ever since. You know, you then muck around for years, you know, wrestling on a trampoline, doing all that stuff that, you know, every kid does. And then, you get more passionate about it, and you decide, you know, that I wanted to do this. I wanted to be a professional wrestler. So I found a local training school in Melbourne called PCW, and I started training. And I was training with guys like Pitbull, Craig Cole, Joel Bateman, Jarrett Craven. But it wasn't until I met Matt Silver things really started to lift off for me.
Yeah, so like the Hardy Boys, so it was all the Attitude Era was really your influences when you were growing
definitely,
up?
Yeah, definitely.
So you didn't really get into the WCW side of it?
No,
or?
I watched one episode of WCW, and I was just like, you watch WWF and then WCW, I was like, man, WWF, this is awesome, you know. WCW never really did anything for me.
All right. I heard that you've actually been over to the States and you did a tryout with ROH, and you also did some training with Chikara. Mm-hmm. Can you just tell your experiences with doing that, what the sort of the procedure is with the tryouts?
Yeah, definitely. You pretty much, I heard that there was tryouts, so I thought, you know what, let's give this a go. So I headed over to Philadelphia, and there was about 35 other guys there. You would get split up into two groups, and one room you'd be doing promos in front of Kevin Kelly, and then you would be in the ring just doing drills with guys like Jay Lethal and Rhett Titus.
What's that experience sort of like with guys that you've sort of seen on TV, especially with Jay Lethal with the TNA experience and stuff like that? What's that like?
Yeah, just hearing Jay pop for, me travelling all the way over from Australia just to be a part of this tryout, he thought that was awesome. And he's a super nice guy. And I learned a lot there, you know, and I impressed. And, you know, Kevin Kelly was happy with all my promos and stuff. And Jay Lethal said all my in-ring work was, you know, really good. And, I got some emails, and hopefully that opens up some doors for the future.
Right, so they gave you, like, notes to go and work on? Sort of like, we're not signing you now, but this is what we want you to work on, and send back stuff to us.
Yep.
So we can look at it?
Yep, definitely. They made it clear to us that they're not going to, you know, pick out the best guy. It all goes by, like, if there's an opportunity where they feel that, oh, you know, that young kid from Australia, he might be awesome in that type of role, they will, they'll get in contact with me, or they could get in contact with one of the other 35 dudes that were there, so, you know. So
is ROH your main focus, or do you want to use that as sort of a springboard to get to a WWE or a TNA?
Personally, I feel that the WWE isn't for me. I'm more of a guy that just likes to go out there and wrestle. I like to entertain, but these days I fast forward through most of WWE's product, you know. But now that, you know, Matt is over at WWE, it'd definitely be good to, you know, just be traveling the roads with him again, and, you know, doing what we used to do here in Australia. But I think I'd be more successful on, like, just a higher independent level.
It's more your PWG.
Yeah. PWG and, you know, Ring of Honor, that type of stuff. But if, you know, there was an opportunity with WWE, you know, I'm not going to say no.
Now, you mentioned Matt Silver. Like, how did you guys hook up? I mean, and how much has he helped your career? I mean, you were, of course, like, billed as his protege, and really put on a cracking match for his last match in Oz.
Yeah. He walked into training one day, and I was like, I marked out a little because I'd seen videos of him, and I was like, wow, that's Matt Silver. That guy's he's pretty cool. And at first he thought I was arrogant. Of all people, he thinks I'm fucking arrogant. But he thought I was arrogant because I was a little bit shy. But I opened up to him, and he saw something in me, and he took me under his wing. He said, you know, you have to sleep, eat, breathe pro wrestling. You know, like, you have to work out, you have to, you know, everything has to be wrestling. And, you know, he just taught me all the little ins and outs, and, you know, he really helped mention me to other promotions. And yeah, if I hadn't become so close with Matt, I probably wouldn't be doing so decent. But yeah, he's like a mentor. He's like my big brother, you know.
Yeah. Heading back to Australia, and you've just moved to Adelaide. Does this mean that RCW is your home now, or are you still keeping MCW sort of Warzone as your main priority in Australia?
Yeah, definitely. RCW is very, very close to me. It would, you know, being RCW champion would mean a hell of a lot to me. But MCW and Warzone, they're my homes. That's where I was really elevated. But RCW, I've wrestled for RCW longer than MCW and Warzone. But yeah, it'll be just probably going back to Melbourne just to hang out with my family and keep tearing it up at MCW and Warzone.
Beautiful. And in the time you've been working, how have the Aussie shows changed, like production-wise and the quality of wrestling-wise?
Well, the very first show I wrestled on, I think there was like 15 people, and there's just obviously a black curtain. And then my second match, I travelled 8 hours and wrestled in front of maybe 20 people, and you know, didn't get paid, none of that stuff. But at the time, I didn't care. I was going out there doing what I loved.
It was all for the experience.
It was all experience. Yeah, I was travelling all the way here to Adelaide, and if I hadn't been wrestling on those smaller shows, I wouldn't have been noticed by RCW. You know, Silver, he mentioned my name to the guys here at RCW. You know, one of the guys came and checked me out on one of those smaller shows, and 2 weeks later, I was in the ring with Mimic.
We're experiencing like a really good period in like quality of Australian wrestling. Mm-hmm. A lot of Australian wrestling, like wrestlers going over to the States and to Mexico, like your Rolands and your Silvers. Mm-hmm. How do you think we can make Australian wrestling better and like maybe crack it into the mainstream of like the Australian culture, if you know what I mean?
Yeah. You see, it's just hard with wrestling because it's not like your AFLs or even your NRL. I just don't think there's that big audience of people that are gonna want to see wrestling. It'd be great to have Australian wrestling on TV, obviously with the correct people, but
yeah, like I don't know about you, but I stand, it still stumps me that we can get like 8, 9, 10,000 to a WWE house show like through Australia, and we can't get at least 1,000 people to a local show.
Yep.
Do you know what I mean?
We've got the talent. There's definitely the talent. It's just people don't know the talent here. You know, they know John Cena and they know Ryback, but they don't know guys like a Damian Slater or a Jag or somebody, you know, a Matt Silver, for instance. Yep. They don't know that, which is why I think that obviously, and WWE's worldwide.
Yeah.
But yeah, you know, Australia definitely has talent.
Yeah, I mean, I would put up some MCW shows or some Warzone shows and some RCW shows up against a lot of like ROH shows that I've seen.
Yep.
Stuff like that. I would put that quality up with that.
Yep.
And it's such a shame that we can't get that out to the people. Mm-hmm. And that's something that the whole of the Australian wrestling community need to work on. I
agree. You've got very, very passionate wrestlers here, and then you have guys that they're happy being the weekend warrior. You know, there's guys that they live wrestling, but it just seems that the guys that want to call themselves, you know, wrestlers, they're the ones that are getting on TV, and they're the ones that are a part of all these horrible products. And you know, people see that, and they say
that's what the product is nowadays.
You know, that's Australian wrestling. They'll judge that instead of going to watch a Damian Slater or, you know, Shane Hayes, Mikey Nichols, or a Jonah Rock. You know.
Yep. Sort of like, what are the favourite guys you've worked, like favourite Aussie guys you've worked, and even like international guys that you've worked? What are the favourites that you stand out in your mind that, like, I have really good matches if I'm with this guy?
Yep. Jonah Rock is up there. I always love wrestling Jonah Rock.
You wrestled not long ago, didn't you, in MCW?
Yes, yeah. He's amazing, and he's come back from Pro Wrestling Noah, and he's learnt so much. Obviously, being in the ring with Matt, we just flow. We know what each other is thinking. I love being in the ring with Rolands, even Mimic. Yeah, and international guys. Paul London is amazing, a super nice guy, and I learn a lot working with Paul.
In your opinion, what makes a good promotion? What makes a company that you'd like to come back to? And you know what I mean? A company that you go, yeah, I'll put aside this date because I know there's a show on.
Yep, I want a family atmosphere. if it's a family atmosphere and everybody is working as hard as they can to make that production or that promotion the best they can, that's what I want to be a part of. And that's what RCW is like.
Yeah.
RCW is like that. EPW, they're very family. You know, I've had one match at EPW and they welcome me like a family. That's the type of places I want to be a part of, and they're good products.
Yeah. So the best promotions you've worked are your EPWs and your RCWs?
RCW, yeah, MCW, Warzone, all those places. Even PWI, when I was first wrestling and not getting paid or wrestling in front of like 20 people. That was a really good family atmosphere, and I was very happy at getting a chance just to wrestle, do what I love. Yeah.
A lot of guys will sort of like forego a good payday if they like what they're doing and they like where they are. So is there any other, like, any Aussie guys that you can see that you could go, this guy shouldn't be, he should already be overseas, or guys that you can see cracking that market?
I often wonder why Damien Slater is still here.
Yeah, I hear that a lot.
That dude's awesome. Even Jonah. I hope Jonah gets more opportunities over in Japan because he's amazing. Well, you got Shane Hayes and Mikey Nichols there. They're signed to Noah now. Yeah, I'd say probably Damien Slater. I don't know why he's here. Even a Mike Peterson. I think Mike Peterson with a few more years' experience, he could definitely crack a WWE or a TNA.
Yeah, so you've got a cage match coming up against Mike Peterson at Warzone.
I do, yeah. July 20th. It's for the Warzone Championship, and it's the very first time I'm stepping foot in a cage. So,
bit of worry, bit of trepidation with that.
Yeah, but I've got some cool stuff up my sleeve that I'd like to pull off. So we'll see what happens, and hopefully I can walk away with that Warzone Championship. Awesome.
Thanks very much for joining us, mate. But before we go, are there like any like Facebook or Twitter plugs where the fans can follow you and keep up with what Adam Brooks is doing?
Yeah, I'm on Facebook.com/Brooksy Brand.
If you didn't see, he actually slashed that.
Twitter is the Adam Brooksy. But just get in contact with me on the Adam Brooks fan page on Facebook.
Beautiful. Thank you very much for joining us, mate.
No worries. Thanks for having me, man.
All the best in your career.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.